Even though I feel as if there are some seriously blurred lines between the print and web world now, especially with digital publishing coming into play, there are some distinct workflow differences between setting up a document for print and setting up a document for web. And so in this movie, that's what we're going to be talking about. So in order to create a file for print, I'm going to go to the File menu and I'm going to choose New. Once I get into the new document, I'm just going to call this Print. Directly underneath that, I have a profile selector. The profile selector allows me to choose between print, web, devices, video and film, and basic RGB. If you're going to create a print document, the print profile is the way to start. Why? Because that gives you access to a lot of different options and sets up a lot of different options that correspond to a print production workflow. Directly underneath that, you're going to determine the number of artboards. Essentially, you can think of this as the number of pages in your document, because in print, we think about pages versus screens or artboards. And so just think of artboards as pages when it comes to a print composition. For the size, you're going to pick between some of the presets they have, either letter, legal, tabloid, or the A and B sizes, or you can specify your own size in points. Now, I understand that some people don't use points for print. They use inches. If you want to switch the units to that, you can. Just change the units right there to inches. You can also control the page orientation right here. And then directly underneath that, you have access to something called bleed. And if you're a print production person, you know all about bleed. Bleed is the extra area we add around the outside of a print document so that we can print edge to edge without any fear that when it is trimmed that we have any gaps. Directly underneath that, we have an advanced section. And the advanced section controls things like the color mode, raster effects, and preview mode. The color mode for a print document needs to be CMYK. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which corresponds to each one of the different printing plates that is used in the production print process to recreate the full spectrum of color. If you were to switch this to RGB, chances are your printer is going to come back and be like, I really need this in CMYK, so it's always best to start in CMYK first. Raster effect settings. Basically what this refers to is because of the fact that you're doing so much in Illustrator that has to do with transparency and gradients, for instance, there are certain things that cannot be reproduced in an overprint situation. And so in that case, the printer actually has to rasterize that artwork, flatten it together. And the higher the resolution, the better off you're going to be with that when it comes to print. So I recommend leaving this at 300 pixels per inch. The preview mode, you can set this to pixel or overprint preview, or you can just leave it on the default. By default, this is just going to give you the general preview mode of Illustrator. If you switch this to something like pixel preview mode, then you're going to be seeing a representation of what your artwork looks like at a pixel level. So if it was rasterized and put on the web, for instance. If you switch to overprint preview, this gives you a good idea of how inks are going to interact with one another, especially when it comes to spot colors and transparency. The final option you have access to here is the Align New Objects to Pixel Grid. This is especially important in web documents, but not so much when it comes to print. So I'm going to close this up. Just remember, you need to pick from the print profile, set your size, make sure your advanced options are set correctly, and then hit OK. Once I do that, I have a new document ready for my print production workflow.